let's look at this do now. So I'm going to just read it to you, and we are going to go through these questions 1 through 4. So I am introducing to you guys some new symbols today. The first one is our greater than symbol, and the second one right here is our less than symbol. Now, just like whenever we read in English, we read left to right, we're going to be reading symbols and mathematical things left to right. So if you notice, we've got a little opening here, and seriously, I like to think of this almost like an alligator. Okay, this is his mouth, and like I put little teeth on here. Okay, so whatever is coming first, which in this case, if I'm going left to right, I see that big open mouth is coming first, and then it gets smaller and tinier right here. The greater side came first, so this is our greater than symbol. Now, on the other hand, the less than symbol, if I were to draw my little teeth here, if I'm reading left to right, I see that I run into this smaller side first. So I'm looking at things that are less here because I hit the lesser side first of this symbol. Now, this is going to make a little more sense in context when we put it in between some numbers. So, these symbols, the greater than and less than, are used in math to compare two different values. So in these examples here, I had you put the correct symbol in between the set of values or expressions. So in number 1, I have -3 is what than 10. So I need to know, is -3 less than 10, or is -3 greater than 10? What do you guys think? Less. It's less than. So here's where those teeth are going to make sense. I see this is my less than symbol. So I'm going to write that in right here. Am I? I am. Thanks for checking, though. Thanks for checking. So I'm going to put my less than symbol, and I'm going to think of it this way. So I'm going to draw my little teeth in. And I remember that if this alligator in the middle were to decide, do I want to eat this teeny tiny little number 3 or this great big number 10, he wants the number 10 because he's hungry. So that's why his mouth is going to face the big number. So if you're ever wondering, oh my gosh, which way do I make that little arrow point? You want the open mouth to be pointing towards the big value. Open mouth is for the big value. All right. So there's number 1. Let's look at number 2. We're getting slightly more complicated here. Now I have 25 plus 2 is what than 28. So before we can put our symbol in, we want to get these sides to have the same kind of format. So I probably want to simplify this side. What is 25 plus 2? 27. Good. Okay, so now I can answer. 27 is what than 28? Is it less than or greater than?
Less.
It's less than. So I'm going to write my symbol in. Just like that. And remember, the mouth, the alligator's mouth is going to be open towards the bigger number. That means he wants to eat the big 28, not that little 27. All right. Any questions about number 2? Awesome. Let's look at number 3. Okay. We have one step even more complicated here. Now I have 3 times the quantity of 2 plus 3 is what than 12. So first of all, how am I going to simplify this side? Yeah, we could distribute it, absolutely.
So you do the 3 times 6 and 3 times 9?
Yeah, so I've got 3 times 2 is
6.
6. Yes, ma'am. And then 3 times 3 is 9. So now I have 6 plus 9. What's 6 plus 9? 15. Okay, so now I know I'm comparing the numbers 15 and 12. So 15 is what than 12? Greater than. So which way is the mouth going to face?
This way.
Yeah, towards the 15. He wants to eat the bigger value. So just like that, greater than. And I'm going to draw my little teeth in. Really, I know it might seem kind of elementary, but this is what helps me understand, and hopefully it helps you guys too. Right.
I really thought you was going to say Pac-Man.
Well, it could be Pac-Man. Could be Pac-Man too. Whatever you want to think of it as.
I look at it too.
All right. Now let's look at number 4. We have negative 36 is what than negative 2 times 50. How do I simplify this side?
Distribute.
Yeah, distribute. And when I'm distributing, what operation is happening? It's multiplication. Good. So what is negative 2 times 50? Negative 100. Good. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky because we're comparing 2 negative numbers. I want you guys to remember that when we are comparing negative numbers, I'm going to draw a little number line so that we can remember how negatives behave. Okay? If I have this number line, and I'm going to put my 0 here, right? The numbers get bigger as we go this way, so I'm going to put a plus there because I know they're increasing. They get smaller as we go this way, so here's my minus or my negative. I know they're decreasing. So if like this is negative 1, negative 2, and then it keeps going on, I don't know, negative 30, negative 100, this is not to scale. Just think about it. As we go smaller, the negative numbers get bigger, but it's still a smaller number. So negative 100 is less than negative 2, for example. It's less than. Does that concept make sense to you guys? As we go this way, the numbers have less value. So even if it's a larger number or a larger looking number, 100 is bigger than 2, but negative 100 is smaller than negative 2. Think about it like your bank account. Would you rather have $0 or negative $100?
0.
I'd rather have none. I don't want the debt. So now let's think about number 4. I need to know negative 36 is what than negative 100? Greater. Good. Even though 100 looks like a bigger number, because it's negative, it's actually less. So negative 36 is greater than negative 100. Okay, good job, guys. Do we have any questions about any of that? All right, good deal. So the whole point of this do now was to just introduce you guys to those symbols again, those greater than and less than symbols. But now that we've kind of talked about them a little bit, here is what our lesson is going to cover today. We are going to talk about what is an inequality. That's what this unit is about. We're going to talk about an inequality. We're talking about less than versus greater than. We kind of already did that. We're going to talk about solving inequalities. Sounds hard, but you guys know how to do it already, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. And then if we have time, I'm going to show you how to graph one. Don't be scared of graphing. It's not as scary as it sounds. Promise. So if you're wanting to write that down, you can, but you don't have to. This is more just so you know what's going on. I always like to know what to expect. So I'm going to move this up a little in case you're still writing. And here is where we start our new unit. So if you like to organize your notes, this is where we are starting Unit 3, Inequalities. So if you want to start a new section or just get things organized, I'm happy to give you a second to get your papers ready. All right, does anybody still need this top part? No, yes, no. You need it? You do? Okay. Is this enough? You see that? Okay, good. All right, so I'll leave that up while we talk about this. So, what is an inequality? I'm going to tell you. We just learned about equations in Unit 2. Unit 2 is all about solving equations where we have a value is equal to another value. For example, maybe we would have n plus 3 equals 5. Okay, so in an equation, this quantity here, n plus 3, is going to have the same value as whatever's on the other side of the equal sign. It's going to equal 5. An inequality is a little different. When I have an inequality, it might look something like this. N plus 3 is greater than 5. So instead of this side being equal to this side, now I have a problem where the first side of my inequality is going to be an answer that's bigger than the other side. It'll be bigger than 5. So an inequality is just, I'll write down a little definition if you like to keep those. It is a number sentence that compares two values just a number sentence that compares two values. Those values are going to end up most of the time being different. One is going to be larger than the other. Later on we'll talk about examples where they could be the same, but for now we're just looking at ones that are different. Okay, so I'm going to scooch this first paper over. Is that okay? Anybody still needed that? All right. And I'm going to move this up for you. All right. So just as a key here, I wrote less than versus greater than. Let's write those symbols in our notes just so that we have them. Less than is the one where you see the smaller portion first. It starts small and gets bigger. So this is less than when we read left to right. Greater than is just the opposite. We start with the larger open section first as we go left to right. Less than and greater than. Okay. So now let's talk about how to solve an inequality. I'm going to write an example of one. And how about I just use the one that I wrote up there? I'm going to put n plus 3 is greater than 5. So, I'm not going to tell you yet what to do. I want to see if you guys can figure that out. My hint I'm going to give you is it's exactly the same as solving an equation. So what would I do first here? Yes. Absolutely. We're going to always be using our inverse operations just like we did before. We want to do the opposite here. Since this is plus 3, we do minus 3 on both sides. All right. What happens to my 3's? They cancel out. A plus 3 and a minus 3 make a 0. And we don't want to write n plus 0. So we just cross it off. and we bring down the n, and then instead of bringing down an equal sign, I'm bringing down a greater than sign. And then what's 5 minus 3? 2. And that's your solved inequality. Instead of saying that n is equal to 2, we could say that n is any number we want that's bigger than 2. So any number that I put in here for my original inequality, if it's bigger than 2, this is true. This is true. For example, let's say I put a 3 in there. I'll replace n with 3. So I'll write that above. 3 plus 3 is greater than 5. Is this true? Yes. 3 plus 3 is 6. And we can ask ourselves, 6 is greater than 5. Is that true? It is true. So we know that this is correct. Now, what if I put 2 for n? Let's try that. What if I did 2 plus 3 is greater than 5? What would this side simplify to? 5. So now I have 5 is greater than 5. Is this true?
No.
It's not true. This is not true. 5 is not bigger than 5. It's equal to 5. So whenever we have an answer like this, where I say that n is greater than 2, that means that 2 is not included in this answer. It's only numbers that are bigger than 2. It could be 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. It could be 10 million. Any number that is bigger than 2. 2 is the cutoff, though. So that's what this means. 2 is not included here. N has to be bigger than 2. Okay, let's try another example. How about if I give you negative 3 times n is greater than 15. So remember, when we're solving an inequality, it's just like solving an equation. We're doing the inverse operation. Inverse means opposite. And quick review, because I know, Tara, you missed a little bit of last unit. Are you familiar with inverse operations? It's okay if you're not. Yeah? Okay. So like if I say to do inverse operations on this inequality, do you know what I'm telling you to do?
No.
That's okay. That's what I needed to know. So I'm going to review that really quickly so that you're not totally lost. Inverse operations, guys. So remember, an operation is just a thing you can do to numbers, like multiply, divide, add, subtract. So inverse means opposite. So all inverse operations is it's the opposite of each of those things that we can do to numbers. So for example, addition. What's the opposite of addition? Subtraction. Good.
Yeah, I got that in my notes.
Good.
My last day was my last, like you said, the 16th.
Yes, so you started unit 2, just that first day, right?
Right.
Good.
Down and here I got to turn in.
Good deal. Okay. And then quick review, we'll do one more.
Okay.
What's the opposite of multiplication?
Division.
Division. Good. All right. So now we have this key here. So whenever I have negative 3 in, what operation is happening there? Yeah, negative 3 times n. So if we want to get n by itself, we need to do the inverse operation of multiplication. What's that? What's the inverse of multiplication? Division. So what are we going to divide by?
15.
Negative 3. We want to get rid of negative 3, so we divide by negative 3 on both sides. So we have negative 3 divided by negative 3, and we'll do 15 divided by negative 3. All right. What happens with my negative 3's? They cancel. Good. Now what do I do? Yep, I'm going to bring down my n. What else? Bring down the greater than. Good. And then what is 15 divided by negative 3? Look at the signs. The 5 is correct, but is it positive or negative? Negative. If I have a positive number divided by a negative number, I'm going to get a negative answer. Does anybody know why this is negative? Can someone explain it?
I believe whenever you do a multiplication and division, if you multiply or divide a positive number to a negative,
Yes. Very good. So I'm going to write that rule out too. Just to, little refreshers. It's good to remind ourselves. When we are multiplying or dividing negatives, so multiplication and division negative rules. The simplified version of these rules is if your numbers that you multiply or divide have the same sign, and by same sign I mean either two positives or two negatives. It could be either one. You're going to get a positive answer. When you multiply or divide two positives, there's no negative there, so you're going to get a positive. When you multiply or divide two negatives, those two negatives cancel each other out, and you will also get a positive answer. If we have numbers with different signs, meaning one positive and one negative, doesn't matter which order it's in, we'll get a negative answer. So different signs could either be a negative and a positive, or a positive and a negative. Doesn't matter what order it's in, just that they're different. All right. Make sense, guys? All right, good deal. So back to the inequality we just solved. We figured out now that in this equation, n is any number that is greater than -5. So if I plugged -5 into this inequality, is that going to be a true number sentence? Is that going to work if I plug this in? No, I see you shaking your head. No, that's correct. If I see that n is greater than -5, -5 is not included in that. I can't pick -5. I can only pick numbers that are bigger than that. So that would be -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 1,000,000. Well, even above 1,000,000, going to infinity. It just can't be smaller than -5. All right, let's do another one. How about n over 2 is less than 20. First of all, when I have a number over another number, what operation is happening? Division. Good. So how am I going to get rid of division? Multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides of the inequality by 2. My 2's on this side are going to cancel, which leaves me with n by itself. And what do I do next? The less than, yes, so n is less than what? Yes, 20 times 2 is 40. So in this inequality, I know that n is any number that is smaller than 40. Any number that's smaller than 40 can be n. Can n be 40? No, it cannot. It has to be smaller than 40. So 39, 38, 37, negative infinity, anything that's smaller. All right, any questions about that? Okay, let's do a trickier one. I'm gonna go to the next page. Here, I'll leave that up while I'm grabbing another sheet of paper. All right. So I'm going to title this real quick. I'm going to call this Day 22 Continued. And this is page 3 of our notes. So we're still talking about inequalities. We just did a couple of one-step inequalities, just like we had one-step equations. Let's make sure we remember how to do our two-step equations or two-step inequalities. So what if I had 3n plus 4 is less than 10? So I have two different operations happening here. I've got 3 times n, and I've got 3n plus 4. Which one of those do I need to do first? Yes, we need to get rid of our 4 first. So just like we use inverse operations, we are working backwards to get rid of things in our inequality. We also do our order of operations backwards. Normally we would do the multiplication and division first, but since we're going backwards, we do addition and subtraction first. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. All right, what happens next? Yes, my 4's will cancel. Then what? Yep, I still have 3 times n left. And remember, when we read left to right, which... Say that again. That's okay. So we're reading left to right. So this is less than. The smaller point came first. You're okay. You're okay. All right. So we have 3n is less than, what's 10 minus 4? 6. Good. Now we have a whole new inequality. I've got 3 times n is less than 6. What should I do now? Divide by 3. Good. On both sides. What happens next? My 3's cancel. Yep, now my n is all alone is less than 6 divided by 3? 2. Good, 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 good. So now I know that my answer is any number that is less than 2. Can it be 2? No, it cannot. It can only be a number smaller than 2. All right, let's do another one like that. Let's see, how about, here's kind of a tricky one. Let's do negative 3 minus 3n is less than 6. Okay. What should we do first? Yes, we're going to add 3 to both sides. All right, what happens next? Yeah, my -3 and that +3 are going to cancel out. And what do I bring down? Yes, yes. So something I see a lot is we'll forget to bring this minus down or this -3 in. We need to keep that when we bring it down. So good job. -3 in is less than 6 plus 3? 9. Good. Okay, last step. What do I do? Divide. Am I dividing by 3 or -3? -3. Good. On both sides. Okay, my -3's will cancel out. I'll bring down my n, my less than, and then 9 divided by -3. What's that? -3. Good. So somebody tell me, what does this answer mean? What could my number be? Anything?
The end has to be anything less than.
Less than 3. Good, good. Anything that's less than 3. Anything that's less than -3 is our answer. Can -3 be an answer? No, it cannot. It is not included. Okay, guys, that is wonderful. How about we run through one more of those, and then I'm going to talk about how to graph one of these. It's not difficult, I promise. I actually think it's very satisfying. I think you'll enjoy it. I'll do another tricky one for you. How about -4 plus n over 2 is greater than -7. And I'm going to tell you right now, in a couple of days, this is a super short unit. We're learning like maybe 3 days worth of lessons, and it'll be like a really tiny quiz after. This question is going to look very familiar on that quiz. So if you want to like circle it on your paper and highlight it, just so you know, it's going to look familiar. I took it off there. Okay, so what would I do first?
Plus 4.
Yes, plus 4.
And then plus 4 on the 7.
Perfect, thank you. Plus 4 on both sides. And what happens next?
Cross it off.
Yes, I'm crossing out my 4s. They cancel. Then what?
Bring down your n to
Yes, I'm going to bring down n over 2. What else do I bring down? Greater than. And now I have -7 plus 4. What's that?
11.
Not quite. We have a -7 and we're adding a positive number.
Then -3.
-3, yes. It's -3. -3. So remember, guys, anytime we're adding and there's a negative involved, we could also think of this as 4 minus 7. And if we did that, we would get, I could think of it like this. Here, 4 minus 7. I think, okay, once I take away 4 from 4, I'm at 0. And I took away the 4 from that 7, so I'm still got 3 left to take away from 0. Now I have 0 minus 3, and that's -3. We got -3 here, okay?
You do like 7, take away 4.
You could do that. You could say 7 minus 4, and since the bigger number was negative, I get a negative answer. Absolutely. You can absolutely do that. Okay, now I have n over 2 is greater than -3. What do I do next? Yes, n over 2 means n divided by 2. So to get rid of division, we multiply. All right, my 2's cancel, so I'll bring down my n. What else? Yes, bring down my greater than sign. And then what's -3 times 2? -6. Good. Okay, so somebody tell me, what does this answer mean? How would I read it?
N is greater than -6.
Yes, n is greater than -6. So that means any number that is bigger than -6 fits into this equation, or this inequality. Anything bigger than -6. Can I use -6? No, negative 6 is not included. It has to be bigger than negative 6. Okay, I'll give you guys a second to write that down, and we're going to start the next part. We're going to learn how to graph an inequality today. All right, everybody ready? Moving on. This is actually day 4, or not day, page 4. Yeah, we're not back at day 4. All right, so here is how we graph an inequality. What we are gonna do is, let's start with one that we already solved. How about, I'm gonna take the answer from this one. N is less than 2. So I'm just gonna write up here, N is less than 2. So here's how we're gonna do it. To graph an inequality, all we do is we start by drawing a number line. So everybody make a little number line on your page. And make sure you put arrows on the end to show that the line goes on and on forever until infinity in both directions. Once I've drawn my line, I always want to label where my numbers are getting bigger and where they're getting smaller. So I like to put a plus over here on the right side, and I like to put a minus over here on the left side. All right, now that we've got our number line labeled, we're gonna put a little tick mark right in the middle. And what I'm trying to do here is I want to show a visual representation of this inequality. N is any number that's less than 2. So because I'm talking about numbers less than 2, I'm just gonna write 2 right here. Now, here's how we graph. This is a lot easier than you might think. To show that 2 is not included, we circle it and we leave it as an open circle. We don't color it in. Make sure that your circle is big enough that I can tell it's not closed. Because if you close your circle, that's a different graph. All right? So we know that 2, we're circling the little tick mark under the 2, just like this. Here, I'll zoom this in a little. Maybe that'll help. Let me see if I can focus it.
Okay, yeah, you good.
Okay. Here we go. All right. Now, we want to represent on this little graph here all of the numbers that are less than 2. So, are my numbers less than 2 over here, or are they over there? They're on the left side. So, easiest thing in the world, here's what we're going to do. We are going to shade it. We're going to color it in, just like this. Like that. And guys, guess what? That's the graph. That's it. That's it. It's kind of satisfying. I think inequalities are fun to draw.
Wow.
I think they look kind of cool.
Wow.
Like, that's it. No, that's seriously as hard as it gets. That's really it.
Wow, I thought these were so difficult.
No, y'all got it. And if you notice, look up there. I have a little chart that tells you. Yeah.
Just look at that.
Yeah, so a little built-in cheat sheet for you. Yeah. Okay, so there we go. There's N is less than 2. Let's do another one. How about we try N is greater than 2? N is greater than 2. So first we want to draw our number line. Just a line with arrows on both sides. Then we want to label a plus and a minus to show where numbers get bigger and where numbers get smaller. And once I've got that, all we got to do is draw a little tick mark in the middle. And we're going to just label what number we are using as our kind of comparison point. And in this case, it's 2 again. So I'm just going to write the number 2 right there. Okay. My next step is to put an open circle around that tick mark where 2 is. Don't color the circle in. And then I want to shade whatever represents all the values greater than 2. So am I going to shade to the right near the plus or the left near the minus? To the right near the plus. I want to say that n is any number greater than 2. So I'm shading in all the numbers that are bigger than 2. And we leave the circle open to show that 2 is not included. Good. Okay, how do we feel about that?
And always look complicated when teaching.
It's not so bad. Yeah. Okay, so I want you guys to practice on your own. I bet you guys got this already. I'm going to write a couple of inequalities, and I want you to draw the graph of them. I'm just going to give you 2 for now. So here's the first one. I want you to graph the inequality. N is less than -10. And then for the second one, I want you to graph n is greater than 12. All right. Now I will set a little timer for you guys, and I'll leave these up so you can look.
So we're graphing them?
Yep, so you're going to draw that number line, label it, circle it, and shade in the correct direction. I want you to draw the graph for those inequalities. I'm going to pause this recording so people watching at home can do it too. And we'll unpause when we give our answer. Okay, so let's look at what our answers would be. Let's look at number 1. What did you guys start with? What did you draw? Yeah, the line with the arrows on the end. So let's go ahead and do that. There's a little line. All right, what else did you draw? Yeah, okay, I hear tick mark, a plus, and a minus. Good. And what did you draw above the tick mark? What number? -10. Great. Okay, now what do I do next? How am I going to show visually that any number less than 10 is an answer? Circle that little tick mark under -10. Good. And which way do I shade? Yeah, to the left, towards the negative sign, because we're showing that any number less than 10 is an answer. Good. Did you guys all get that? Good. Yay. Okay, let's try number 2. All right. Number 2. I'm going to just go ahead and draw this for you, because I bet y'all got at least that far. All right. What are we writing above that tick mark? 12. Good. Okay. Circle it. Do I color it in? No, no, no. And which direction do I shade? Towards the plus or the minus? Towards the plus, because n is any number greater than 12. Another little trick to help you remember which way to shade. When you look at your symbol, it's also like an arrow. It tells you which direction. It literally tells you. There's so many little tricks you can use to get these right. Awesome. Did everybody get that? Okay, you guys are superstars. That's literally it for today. I'm going to give you an exit ticket. All right. So here is day 22. And it's just going to be one question. Exit ticket. I'm going to give you one extra step here. I'm going to have you solve the inequality and then graph. And I'm going to give you a real simple one. So I want you to solve n plus 3 is greater than 10. And then I want you to graph your answer. So first you're going to solve it and figure out what n is bigger than. Then you're going to graph it. And that's all, guys. That's it. Once you're done, you are free to go. I'm going to end the recording there.